Jack, why are you the happiest guy in e-commerce?
Why am I happy? Oh, life's good, man. Life is so good, isn't it?
You in
Like,
e-commerce? Sorry, just no, that's fine.
yes, I'm in e-commerce. Yeah, I have a brand. I got my start in e-commerce with my first brand. I haven't done anything apart from e-commerce my whole life.
I just want to say, good to meet you guys. I am aware of who you are and what you do, but I don't think we've ever actually connected.
I think we
So
have either. I
just
was
wanted to
just
say,
how's Robin?
Robin.
Robin just joined you guys.
Oh, okay. Yes. So you're talking about Lunar Solar Group, yes? So this is, yeah, this interesting context. So No Commerce was incubated as part of Lunar Solar Group years and years ago. So we're no longer part of that though. So we sold to Tiny, a holding company in Canada back in 2022. So separate. But yes, I am aware of Robin joining Lunar Solar Group, which I'm sure is a big win for them. So I do know that team pretty well. But
Cool. Well, it's good to connect, man. Rishabh, you drive.
Okay. I mean, yeah, dude, I guess one thing I've been really curious about DB, just to like really dive right in, is at least my understanding of the story is like you were sort of already working on Orita and then you brought Aaron in as a co-founder. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. That's
Amazing.
right. Yeah.
What led you to that decision? Like a big part of company building, outside of the lanky body and the not as nice hair. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
What led to
Well,
what led to the decision?
people said that first of all, Zach and I were too handsome, so we needed to lower the average. No, so what really happened was that so Zach and I are both machine learning engineers, and so we know how to solve problems with your data expertise, all that kind of stuff like that. But in terms of selling and positioning and everything go to market, all that kind of stuff, we had very little experience. And this is how bad it was. We would send emails out to when we first got our first set of pilot customers and things were going really well. They told all their friend brands about us and stuff like that. And we would do this little audit and be like, hey, this is how we think Orita could help. This is our pricing. Here's a stripe length. Get started. And our close rate was 93%. And we were like, oh, we solve sales. And then what happened was that Matt from Enquire, from Fairing, put us in touch with Aaron. It was like, you should talk to this guy because he knows a lot about go-to-market stuff. He can help you out. And he said, you guys are too cheap. Your close rate that high from an engineer's mind is like, oh, we've solved this problem. It is 100% solved. And it's like, no, you just haven't done price discovery to actually understand the value that you're generating. Because everyone is just immediately saying yes to what we're doing. And that was a huge light bulb moment for the two of us. We're just like, oh yeah, there's expertise in this entire aspect of sales and positioning and partnerships. And we don't know anything about it. We just know how to help solve problems. And then sometimes those people are like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to tell my friends about you. And so when we thought about how can we actually formalize that and scale that, we're introduced Aaron just to as an advisor at first, but then we very quickly realized I was why are we going to try and learn all this on our own? And build everything and improve the algorithms and do all that kind of stuff. It's just and we really enjoyed working with Aaron and he has so much experience in this space. We mostly enjoyed working with Aaron and he kind of is experienced in the space. And so then it was just it felt like this no brainer. It's we realized that we really did have this missing part of the team. We didn't even think about that initially. We're just oh, instead of hiring this, we should have this be a core part of who we are. And that should be another existing member. So it wasn't even I don't even think that Zach and I thought for a second, oh, Aaron should be our first employee. We didn't think about it in that context at all. We're just no, this is so core to how we want to be. He should just be a part of our founding team, even though yeah, he joined a little bit later than us.
Yeah. And I mean, it turns out the join dates don't matter for these sorts of things. What matters is what is the DNA of the company. I want to talk more about that for sure. But I guess okay, so let's imagine there's some other founders out there who are technical and they're thinking about this question. Did you think having him as an advisor first was helpful in framing the thinking and the company build? I guess I'm more curious about the insight around company building and the company building trajectory And then I want to
Yes.
hear it from the other side too, because getting someone like Aaron is not easy. So I don't want like someone listening to this who's just like, two engineers being like, yeah, of course we should just like go find like
Totally.
the CEO of another company to be our CEO. It's like, this is just like not how it works. So
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and like I've definitely I've gotten those emails being like, hey, could you put us in touch with like person, preferably they had like 2 successful exits. I'm just like, what are you smoking? Like, why are you asking me to like randomly connect you with someone who's made so is a billionaire that you know that like is willing to join us, and so it was critical that there was an advisor relationship first, just because like we needed to learn the expertise and experience that he had in general, just to even like frame the problem space that we were like entering. And then it was like, does he understand what we're doing and our viewpoint? And there's lots of people who say they have lots of data and all this kind of stuff, but like, does he actually kind of believe in what we're doing in our backgrounds? And then do we actually like genuinely enjoy working together? And as the three of us, finding together, to your point, it's like the DNA of the company. Like it's the all of us together is going to be how we hire, how we are perceived, the messages that will be out, and it's like it's a very equal thing. And so you can't like casually date to get there. You know what I mean? You have to like really spend the time and the effort. And I think that doing that as an advisory capacity to be like, listen, if this is great, maybe I'll be an even more involved advisor, and then maybe even more involved, and maybe you'll do some consultant work and we'll pay you out. Like we were talking about all these sorts of steps, and then it just basically collapsed very quickly to be like, no, we've done enough of this stuff. Like, let's actually have the conversations about being another founding member of the team.
So Aaron, just help me understand what made you want to join like a small company, like because you were leading Loop,
No,
right?
no, I'd actually stepped away a year before that. I was leading a very joyful life where everything was good and I was hanging with my kids and my wife had a very intense job and I was like advising some, consulting some. So it was actually stepping away from that. That was harder. I'll do this pretty briefly. But like Matt Barr from it was I think Enquire Labs at the time, but from Farron, he's the one who connected us. Amazing tool, amazing founder. I'm actually an advisor to his company, and he knew DB and Zach, and they almost started something with Kurt. And I distinctly remember he's like, "Oh, I want you to meet these two guys." And like, sorry for the language, but his quote was like, "They have no idea how fucking good they are." And I was like, "Dude, happy to." Like, uh, you know, I hit a point in my career where I stopped trying to be an advisor, and I was like, I'd rather spend 3 or 5 hours with a founding team over time and not have any future commitment. Because I was like, it's as much. I assume all equity is going to zero, right? I've like had 4 startups. 2 are at zero. One took a decade and was a zero, right? One is doing very well in passport shipping, but like I've seen enough. And so to me, it was like a point in my career where I just want to spend time with very smart people who I like spending time with, building something big. And my framework for choosing an advisee is like, is it somebody who at some point in my career I would have worked for? That's it. Like they might be 26 and like, I'm not going to go join this random company that I'm not interested in, but I'm like, wow, she's got a spark or she's brilliant or like, my goodness, like I'm so lucky to be in the room with this person. And so at DB, like I remember our first meeting was in Central Park Bryant Park. And we talked on the phone or whatever. And it was very quick where I was like, okay, Matt's right. These guys are brilliant. I think the part of the story that is interesting to me is like, they actually asked, it was like a couple months in, hey, do you want to be a co-founder? And it was a shift from the consulting phase of the business to like the software phase. Like they'd already started it. And that was, I think, like late September. And I actually worked all of October as if I were a co-founder because I was like, I'd rather commit a month of feeling stress and calling you every day and then not have an obligation beyond it. And like, I'll still be an advisor and like, and then opt out. And so I don't know if DB remembers this, but I was like, I'm trying them out. Being a co-founder is brutal. Starting a company is brutal. You want to find people who are like perfect for you as defined by you. And within that month, I was like, okay, this is like absolutely a no-brainer. And then I think I was formally a co-founder come November, but in my mind, I was already like wearing that hat.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Um,
Risha, I'm sorry. The one thing I should say is like, I was in a very fortunate part of my life where I could like basically like invest in something for a month without any like guaranteed anything, let alone my salary. It wasn't like, oh, they paid me $6,000. Like I was still just an advisor. but it was like a mutual understanding where like, if we mutually opt in, we're going to do this. And I was able to take that opportunity.
DB, how far were you guys in your journey? Like, what did it look like in terms of, your customer base, revenue, things like that, when you got to the wanting to do that?
So early. So, the story for us was that like, so, Zach and I, we were at some startups, we're at these things. We decided to go do something on our own, and we were consultants for a while. I mean, we had like our own company, it was an LLC and all this kind of stuff like that, with the idea of like, hey, we're just going to help brands, help some tools out, and like if something is repeatable, then we'll try and make a product out of it. And the story, and this is like it's true. What happened is like we were doing all this work, a lot of data engineering, a lot of CDPS things, like this all back in the day, like early high touch days and stuff like that. So like a lot of these things that are common now weren't that common back then. And we were doing all of this work, and actually Matt's going to come up so much in our founding story. He was like, "You're doing all this stuff," and he's just like, "There's this one part of like these reports that you're generating for these brands that you're helping out that's about like marketing waste." And he's just like, "Pretend like," he's like, "Why don't you pretend that like this whole big thing that you're giving, that's all the economics things and stuff like that, that really is helpful for the team that you're like contracted in, but it's like you can't sell this whole giant report like a McKinsey-esque report unless you're already in that organization. But just like pretend that like maybe that is just what you do." And so we condensed this whole big thing into just like one number essentially. And we went out to an agency and a friend of ours, and I was like, "Hey, send to a handful of your brands that will use machine learning to help them be smarter about their marketing in Klaviyo." And he sent that out to 6 brands, and 5 of them booked us meetings within 30 minutes. And the 6th one wasn't on Klaviyo. And then all of them agreed to become pilot customers. And then, we didn't have results for a month. And then when we had the results for a month, it turned out that like it was way better than all of our expectations for what we could do to deliver. And then they told all their friends. And we charged them nothing, $50 a month, $2,500 a month. It was something like that. But we were actually like controlling a huge part of their list. And I think that's also what caught Aaron's eye, was that like, yeah, technically this brand was paying us $100 a month, but we were like telling them to not email like 1 million people. So if we were wrong, they're on the hook for like $10 million. You know what I mean? And so like the leverage of what we were doing was enormous, even though the price that we were capturing was really small. And so I think by the time that we actually got introduced to Aaron, I think we had like 12 paying customers, basically no revenue, but like something, we weren't free or anything like that. And it was basically the summer before. So like June, we sent out that email. Those 5 brands became our customers. We literally changed our website overnight. We were at a conference in Toronto. We went to our website. We said, we do this marketing. We're not general consultants anymore. This is what we do. We had to cover up the conference. Like we had like a booth at a conference, like a little tiny start booth thing. We covered it up with poster board because they wouldn't let us change the sign. We taped over the sign, and this is what we do now. And we're like, this is now Orita. We're now like, this is what we formally do. And then as soon as that first month hit and we shared the results back with our brands, and it was the first one was Jason from Doe Lashes, who I don't know if you guys know. He's very great about starting stuff up. He's like, "Whoa, this is huge." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can you help us out here?" And he's like, "I told every brand I know about you." And then then Caraway came, and then like all these like bigger brands started reaching out from out of the woodwork. And it was at that point when Matt was like, "You guys, I think you guys have found something. You don't know anything else about how to do anything else here except for making an algorithm that's smart. So you need to go talk to Aaron right away." At that point. So it was like handful of brands paying us a little bit of money, but like the promise was there.
That's interesting. Do you think that, like, if I'm trying to start up a company that sells to like the Shopify ecosystem, do you think that the right way to do it is sort of this way? Like, get that initial like wave of people to get really excited and hungry. Potentially, like, I mean, I'm not saying you guys intentionally priced it low, but potentially, like, actually intentionally price it very low to like give this like ridiculous skew of like value to cost, and then inch up over time. Like, what do you think was like the ingredients to the early belief for both of you guys? And then how do you think about pricing over time? Because I think if you come out of the gates with how you charge today, I don't think the story gets written this way. That's
No,
just like, I mean, one person's opinion. Like, what
no,
do
I,
I know?
I think that's a great, and Aaron thinks a lot about price. We could talk about that. I think the signal for us was the responsivity to those emails that were being sent. Like, we've been doing consultant work. Like, we kind of knew how busy everyone was, and to just like literally once we got that, and this is like the crazy truth about it is that like everything that we had was half built. We had half our connections, but like we've been machine learning engineers for a decade. We were fully confident that like we could integrate into Klaviyo over the next couple of days and build something that fully works, but it wasn't like 100% baked in and working yet. We were just like confident, like if there's something there, we can build it. And so as soon as we got that response rate, we're just like, oh man, this is what we have to do. Like we've never ever reached out and anything pulled us in this, and we haven't talked about price. We didn't talk about any of that, but it was just like, wow, they're like, these people are busy. They probably have 50 cold inbox things in their thing right now. And then all of a sudden, it was through an agency friend of theirs, but it was just like, they immediately just responded to that when they don't have to. And that was like such a strong sign. But I need to think a little bit more about the pricing. Aaron, I'm really curious about what you think about that in terms of the pricing aspect about it.
I mean, I think there's a couple different vectors. And Rishabh, you and I have talked enough about the Shopify ecosystem. And so I think there's a question of what is the business you're building? Are you building a business that needs 20,000 brands and you're going to charge $20 a month? And like that could be a really healthy business if you can build it lean. Is that like a Trojan horse or something else? So I do think there's a question of like, is your ambition to build a public company, a cash flowing company, something in between, right? So I as a founder, you never want to delude yourself about what you're building. I definitely did with my first two companies. I think I'm right on the third and fourth company, right? The goal is market validation. We actually have a customer right now. So we're building our ads product. And we have a customer right now that is a beta in the ads product. And they're churning from our email product, which is like what Orita is known for today. But like we're going channel to channel. We have SMS now, we do direct mail, we're doing ads, and like we will keep going. And it is very self-evident to DB and I that we're just going to keep giving them the ads product for free because we don't actually care about the money, we care about the learning. And so I think you want to get as many at bats to learn and to build a better product and to do customer discovery as needed. I think on a pricing perspective, my thinking has definitely evolved over the years, even evolved in the last 6 months. Forget like pricing model, right? But like in general, for a startup founder, your pricing for your first 10 customers can be different from the pricing for the next 10. So like the first thing that I did with DB and Zach is I think their accounts were like, and I can go back and look, I'll try to do it in real time, but it was like $50 a month for one, $20 a month for another, $100. And I was like, just double your price for your next 3 pitches. And they immediately had 3 out of 3 for $200 a month. I think that's right. I literally can go
It's
find
very
that.
similar. Yeah.
I think that's exactly it. And so like you want to do price discovery. The first thing I did at Loop, I was like a 1099 called Chief Business Officer, whatever my title was, but I ran sales marketing partnerships until we found better people for sales marketing partnerships. This is like after the Series B. I raised price by like 10 or 15%, I think in August of 2021. And then I raised price by like 10 or 15% more in like October. And we had our first quarter in a long time where we beat our numbers. And then you start doing discovery. And it was like, look, we are creating this much. It wasn't willy-nilly. It was like, we are creating so much value and the retention rate is so high. What I've definitely been feeling at Orita is we create an insane amount of value, but we are fighting for a SaaS budget. And so if we create infinity dollars, we are still capped on how much we can charge because retention budgets aren't performance marketing budgets. And some CFO is going to be like, hey, the line item is too big, cut it. And they're like, sorry, guys, we have a budget. And my comment is like, there are dollars on the ground that we can pick up from your existing list. And we will hand you those dollars for way cheaper than what you would spend on Meta to go acquire the net new customer. Like the opportunity cost of not using us is all the spend in performance marketing. And what has happened is we've had a handful of like extremely painful churn where it's like, it is undeniable, even in their, like not us telling you, hey, we're good, but like they're like, hey, here's your ROI. Here's this. It's 17x. It's whatever. We just don't have budget. And so the framing that I've been thinking about a lot recently is like when the renewal. I don't know, I heard some podcasts, whatever, right? Rishabh, you and I've talked about pricing separately and it's just like We just need to live with brands long enough for us to become electricity in their system. And when they work with Orita, they get the most out of their list. It could be their email list, their SMS list, whatever. And so I think with pricing, you start low, you learn, you do price discovery, but like at no point, like you really need to know what your buyer's constraints are. And I think we've done a mediocre at best job of that. I think we're getting better. And we already have some like boomerangs who are coming back. We're like, yep, we want that revenue back that we've given up.
Jeremiah, do you think that that's true in the e-com ecosystem? Out of curiosity.
Talking about like the SaaS budget versus something else, or which part of that?
Retention versus acquisition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do. I think, yeah, I mean, we work with, so obviously you guys know Faring well. We're, very similar product with No. My estimate, it's hard to see exact numbers, but my estimate is that our customers spend north of 10 billion a year on paid ads. And we are helping them, like for most of them, at least the primary use case is helping them understand the impact of those paid ads. And the amount that we generate is a very, 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 very small fraction of that. So I think about that a lot. I think like if you could actually, because it's looked at it as a SaaS product, and I think even within that, there's even like subcategories in SaaS that people have expectations around price. So when you call it survey, there's a upper limit on what somebody's willing to pay for that. And so we think about that a lot. And I would say like a lot of the things we've been working on over the years has been trying to move out of that in some regards, in terms of like the framing and how people think about it. But I completely agree. Like if you can actually attach yourself to the acquisition side of things, which for sure, like you've been doing that, I think. It sounds like, or you've at least been thinking that way. I'd be curious what your thought is on that too. But if you can attach yourself to the acquisition side, there's a totally different price that somebody is willing to pay in that context.
I wish our sales guy was here because he would have so many thoughts on this. Obviously, at 4Play, we have over 15,000 paying customers, and most of them come to us for opportunity. They're coming to us for the benefit as opposed to opportunity cost, the cost that they're incurring. There's some amount of people who want to reduce their creative costs because creative production is so high that it's expensive, and it's extremely expensive to produce bad ads that don't work, right? So some amount of people are coming like, our creative budget is large and some of it is getting wasted. Those are sort of, the larger customers, the more operational customers. But most people come to us for opportunity. They're coming for benefit, right? And we're selling the benefit, right? Which is that, well, if you could launch better ads, the opportunity might be better. Yeah, I think our sales guy would have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm keen to hear what you guys think. I think that maybe part of it is selling opportunity cost, selling pain to somebody who might not actually be experiencing that pain or might not be looking to buy to resolve that pain, as opposed to they're looking to buy for opportunity. Because we already know that they're looking to buy for opportunity in the acquisition side of things, right?
Rishabh, if I can jump in on this point and then head off on like the performance side of things. Jack, the first product that DB and Zach built was actually a cost savings tool. It was, you're sending 1 million emails. We will, with statistical significance, prove to you that you could send 600,000 emails, get the same revenue. You're going to save money because every email is maybe a tenth of a penny, but 400,000 emails twice a week adds up. We're going to take half the savings is kind of the framing. And what we learned literally within the first couple of months is like, oh, actually, there's this thing called email deliverability. And there's this thing called don't annoy Jeremiah so he doesn't unsubscribe today. So the list is healthier in a month whenever he's ready. And oh, we're actually a growth vector. We are not a cost savings. And so for truly almost 2 years, we've not talked about cost savings at all. I just rolled off another, like a podcast with one of our investors who mentioned that we are a cost savings tool. And I was like, we're not. And it's so funny because it's like 2 years ago. So we are a growth tool. And I've offered so many brands a rev share on growth. Nobody actually wants to do it. And again, it's like, we'll prove performance, but they think about us as a retention budget, and retention budget is capped. And so it's like, even when we position that way, by the way, this is why we're moving into performance marketing. We do direct mail, we do ads. I'd love to figure out a way to break out of that. So open to any and all advice, but we keep finding ourselves being capped because of where the budget is.
Yeah, I just wonder if the reason I asked Jeremiah, and Jack's input is, I just wonder if it's structural to the market as opposed to the function. Not that I know any better, but I just wonder if you'd see the same thing if you like went to consumer SaaS or if you went to like some other market, basically.
It's it's interesting though, because and I guess Aaron, I don't know what this will look like when you get into the ad side of things, but I know companies out there that operate in that space and are basically taking a cut of the ad spend. And I think there's probably an upper limit on that too. There's a point at which somebody says, "No, I'm not going to pay you $1 million a month." But there's a much that number is much bigger before somebody starts to say, "Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that." And because if you can show that the incremental value that you're driving is bigger than whatever the additional costs that you're putting on there, it's a totally different way of thinking about it. And so I do think like the whatever you charge for retention, you can probably charge 10, 20 times as much on the acquisition side for the same effective output.
Yeah. I'm not going to name this customer, but I'm going to tell you guys a story because it might be helpful. Um, there was a customer who we worked with, um, who has since churned, who they they grew from, and I'm also going to purposely obfuscate numbers because otherwise it becomes easy to guess, but everything is in ballpark. Okay. So let's just say they grew from a $20 million brand to a $100 million brand. So they were spending millions a month. And in working with us, their CPA a was like 40% of what it was before they started working with us. Or in a comparison, because like we always do always on holdouts and things like that. So, anyways, it's like a 2.5x difference, okay, between when they were used for mod versus when they didn't. They did all the things that you would expect a D2C brand to do. They tried to like replicate the pages on their own, like all of these things, but like the UI is not what we sell. There's like a bunch of stuff happening under the hood, right? So even like to them, they were like, we perfectly copied it. Why is it not performing the same? I was like, we've tried to tell you this 100 times. Like the UI is only a part of it, but it doesn't matter. And let's just say that they were paying us, again, these numbers are not correct, but let's just say they were paying us $250,000 a year. Okay. All in territory. So then they asked to come back because they stopped working with us and their CPAs actually quadrupled. Right? Because what ends up happening when you stop using the thing is not just that the comparison difference happens, but then the rest of your systems all get screwed up. And so it actually becomes even worse. They're like, they asked to come back like roughly 2 months later, and we basically said no. Just to cut a long story short, for a variety of reasons, we were like, hey, here are all the conditions that if you can meet them, then you can come back. But we're like, other like it's up to you. And past that, like we just don't care, right? Not because we don't care to help brands, like that is like literally the purpose of the company, but it's because I think that like there is a reality of like at some point there's a reality of opportunity cost for the company or the vendor who is like serving a customer, and like the customer type and persona and things like that, where no matter how much value you are giving and no matter what the by the way, like the ROI on this for them was probably like somewhere between 25 and 50x. And it was like the difference between their business growing super fast and not. Um, and so I think there are deeper, harder structural questions that every company needs to ask about how they think about what customer to serve, what audience to serve, how to serve it. Do they want to participate in that market or not? And I think that's just like a reality. Like I on the one hand, there's like a part of me that's like, hey, this rhetoric of like, yes, on the one hand, like I want to do things that are deeply customer centric and the company is deeply customer centric. And at the same time, companies like ours also do have opportunity cost, right? And so who I do that for actually matters a lot. Yeah.
In this case, could you have like added a zero and gone, you know what, it's worth it now?
So like instead of 250, it was like 2.5 million.
Yeah. Just 10x their bill and said, hey, you know what, guys, we'll do it for you, but it's going to cost more.
Yeah, like I said, there were a set of criteria that we outlined under which they
Right,
were
right. And it
like,
wasn't
we're like,
agreeable.
hey, and so like there was a set of things that if were fulfilled, it was like, great, you guys should just use it now. Yeah.
Right. Right. I'm following you. Crazy.
We've talked about commerce being a fickle place, right? And like one of the pushes that you've given us, which like we're doing because we are an ML team, is we're just moving up market, right? Like the bigger the brand, the better. And it's not like even if we're charging exactly the same for every brand, we will be more performant for larger brands because they have more data for our models to work against. But I think part of what you've heard from us is like commerce is our vertical today, but commerce is not our whole business. When you look at companies in this space, do you do you think that you can still go build a public company in the Shopify ecosystem, or is
No
it you
chance.
actually immediately need to move out?
I think there's no chance. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like not possible. Not because I don't think that there are like great brands and great companies to work with in the Shopify ecosystem. I just think that the structure of the Shopify ecosystem is set up to make it extraordinarily difficult for a vendor that operate. You're saying like if you operate only in the Shopify ecosystem, right? Like the specific constraint is like I don't serve Salesforce, I don't serve
You might
like
move up
HTC.
market over time, but
Yeah, I think if the way you set up the question is um, we only serve this one ecosystem, I think you're setting yourself up for like an impossible task. And the principal reason that I think that is again not because there aren't like great brands and like people are highly experimental and things like that. I think that one of the structural insights that I had, which I don't know why it took me so long to realize this, is the cost of Shopify is put into their uh, payment processing fee. And this one single thing actually shapes the entire SaaS ecosystem that's built around it. And I don't know how it took me so long to like realize this, but the appearance of how much Shopify costs shifts the structure of the rest of the market. At least that's my opinion.
That's interesting.
I don't know, Jeremiah, you're nodding along. I'd be very curious what your take is, but I do think that matters a lot. And I think that it is. I'm not saying that Shopify is being malicious or anything like that in this design, but I think that there's a massive education component that is like very difficult, and until it gets rectified, makes it impossibly difficult. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. Because if Shopify Plus is what, 2,000 a month, I think it may be a little bit higher depending on what it is for the software fee. But the bigger stores on Shopify Plus are actually paying 40,000. I think it's
That's
per
the
month.
cap, right? I think.
The cap, yeah. Like that's what you're actually, if you're a $100 million a year brand selling on Shopify, that's what you're actually paying for Shopify. But your subscription fee, and that's the payment fees, right? So that doesn't include the subscription, but you're actually paying, over $500,000 a year for that piece of software. But when you look at it as $2,000 a month, it feels hard to pay more than a few $100s for an app that plugs into that. I completely agree with that. And then if we look at the question of public companies, it's really just Klaviyo that's been able to start like really gain their foothold in this ecosystem and move out. And if you look at Klaviyo, they're actually not even that big in the email space. That's not kind of unfair. They're big, but they're not like MailChimp is actually twice the size of Klaviyo when they exited a couple of years ago. So it's just that market is so massive that there's enough there that I think you can start there. And I don't know what Klaviyo's numbers are now, but I would assume that most of their revenue is actually not coming from that ecosystem anymore. So yeah, I just don't think I don't think you could actually build a public company off of Shopify.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating. I think that's incredibly insightful. It's that structural argument that you made is very similar to the one that Aaron was making about like just how, at least in this market too, people think about retention, right? Which is like if something is performant with 20%, put in $1, you get $1.20, they'll do that. In email, you got to put in 1 penny and get $1,000. Otherwise, it's like not worth it, even though it's like same conceptually. And so, what we've noticed when we've talked to other other companies, because we have like just had conversations, because as Aaron mentioned, like our goal is like we start in this ecosystem because everything's so connected. So it's really easy to like get the data that's all formatted in a way. We don't have to do like unique things for every CDP that we're integrating with, because we're now it's Nike this time and now it's Lyft this time, and it's like it's different data structure. And so that allowed us to make things that were very performant very quickly. But then you run into like the conversation gap on like the value prop is this huge ceiling that we hit, and we are finding ways around it and stuff like that. But it's also something that we notice is markedly less apparent when we go talk to other players in the space, big companies that sell financial services, or they, the grocery delivery. It's just like, that's not their conversation is like, oh, 3% on $1 billion budget. Great. And then here's what you can charge. Fine. It's a multiple of that. That's fine. Go, let's do it. Like, let's go right away. Even though it is email, or even though it is SMS, it's just, to your point, it's just like people cannot imagine spending more on a SaaS tool that is higher than either Shopify or Klaviyo. They're like, nope, that's the top. And it's like, yeah, but like,
Yeah,
it's really the bottom. Actually, it's like the foundation. Everything else can like drive performance on top of those things that you can pay a lot of money for. Yeah.
yeah. My hunch is that there's like there's like this one structural thing related to price. I think the other one that is like not spoken about as much is that the ecom TAM in the US has been shrinking for the last 3 years, which is like a really bad thing. And when you're living in a shrinking TAM, um, like willingness to spend is just really bad, right? So like you should look at ecom growth rates before the pandemic and after the pandemic. But before the pandemic, it was like double-digit growth rates. Ignore the pandemic because it like went way straight up, like, and then it went straight down, right? But since then, it's been at 4%, so it's like barely keeping up with inflation, and um, so it's like actually shrinking. Like the behavior in some ways is rational to the macro, right? I don't say any of this to say to like none of what I say is intended by any stretch of imagination to be like saying like, hey, this person is not acting rationally, or this person is, or this person is being malicious. It's just like I think that the structural ramifications of this market are very different than other markets, right? So it's just something to think about.
One more quick thing too. I think the thing that you highlighted, DB, that makes this such a good space to build in initially, the access to data, the cleanliness of it, all that kind of stuff, is also the thing that makes it so hard, because it's so easy and for more competitors to come in. It's easy to switch to something else. Like there's, I've seen, I mean, looking at some of the logos on your site, I work with some of those brands and know that they use everything, like anything that you could possibly plug in. They're turning it on. They're trying it out. They're trying to see what works, what doesn't work. They're trying something new, like that, and that's. I think that makes sense. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, but it's easy to do that in a way that it's not in other industries.
Yeah, liquid markets are liquid, you know?
We've had a very interesting period for the last month where like we actually think we have an N of one product. Like, yes, the data is available, but like DB and Zach should not be in e-commerce. They're just idiots who happen to be here. They should be running pricing teams at Uber. You know what I mean? Like they are like exceptional ML engineers and humans, whatever, who happen to be in e-commerce, right? And happen to have found a problem and have like been tinkering on that problem for years. And the output of our modeling, which is super duper complex, is very simple. And that's why I'm able to sell it, which is like, hey guys, we're going to give you a list of people who want to hear from you. And our segments will be better. And like, we'll do a runoff against anybody. But there are a lot of companies right now who are saying, we also give segments. And here's your top decile, here's the next. And DB, in a delightful way, will be like, anybody can put like numbers on like profiles, right? And so the problem that we fight with is like, there's actually a lot of noise where it's not,
Totally.
your point, it's not like, oh yeah, this is like a competitor that does the same thing. It's like just people saying they do what we do. And so that is, the natural issue with being in any ecosystem. And so like we are waiting a lot of these guys out and we're like, great, we'll just keep creating a lot of value and then growing. I think in terms of the like, Rish, of the market dynamic, I will just say whatever I believe doesn't matter because we have been told by every VC, I'm like old enough and I live in the Bay Area where I know like a lot of like amazing investors. And they're like, yeah, I don't do commerce tech. And so like, it doesn't matter what I want to believe. Like there are a handful, right? But it's a reason that like what we're building is actually like very specifically, it is like, this is our first vertical. And in this vertical, you have an insane amount of divergent strategies. You have brands that send 1 email a week and 15 emails a week, and brands that have done well at Gmail, and brands that, and so the whole strategy is go build amazing products, build a global model, and then port it to your point, consumer SaaS or B2B or whatever, which is like higher willingness to pay actually understands that budgets are fungible and that if I can get more dollars in retention than I can in performance, I will put more dollars in retention. We just need to do the work to live long enough, right? And build better
Yeah.
products and better products and better products to get there.
The one thing that I think is like really interesting is I suspect that you guys probably have like a lot of growth to be had at like as people catch on to the first wave of AI products that they start to use. And then what happens after that? Um, for two reasons. One is like AI product usage adoption rates are ridiculously high. And the second reason is that every one of those products, the rate at which they change in order to like retain their customers and or expand within them is also ridiculously high. And so I think like, you know, while consumer products is like a great vertical and was a great vertical and always will be for getting good data, I just think we happen to be in an era where there may be another vertical out there that is equally rich, equally interesting. Because like the like allure and the seductiveness of e-commerce is like the data is really good.
I'm curious too for you guys, like what are your ambitions from here? I know we haven't really touched on that yet, but yeah, Aaron, you're talking about investors and stuff. So, and I have no idea how you're capitalized, all that, but I'd be curious to learn.
Try to take over the world. DB, I think before we get into that, you have a pretty good, just in terms of the velocity of AI, and Jeremiah will tell you where we're going and brazing and everything. But DB, maybe like the thought around the Wayback Machine and like how companies are just like changing so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of companies that whose websites have changed very quickly, and who now do a lot of agentic stuff. And I think there's lots of teams that have built very successful looking wrappers for LLMs and things like that. And so, you know, what I feel is tough is if you do something right now that delivers some value, but you could Claude code it, vibe code it, and get something that's like decent enough, and it doesn't need to be accurate enough that it matters, then that's tough. But there's, you know, and so like I think if I were thinking about this in like terms of like the medical field, the medical space, it's like I think it's hard right now to be like a nurse practitioner or a GP or something like that. Like someone that you is important to see, but like there's lots of that. I don't think there is a fear of like AI replacing neurosurgeons. And so
Well, it already is, isn't it? It already is. Most neurosurgery doesn't happen by hand. It happens from machine learning machines.
there are surgical tools. Okay, I actually know. We could talk about.
I don't know much about it. I'm the one out of their depth. Ooga booga monkey brain jack. But
so DB has a DB has a PhD, guys. Just to as an FYI.
From a medical school in the neurobiology department. And so the thing too is that like I think that what we don't know about a lot of AI tooling and like vibe code and stuff like that is like what is the total cost to serve? I think that's something that's like not spoken about, which is like if you now Claude code something in house, like you now are responsible for that thing. So what will really matter is like where do things need to have like reliability, scalability, you know, predictability, I think is like really, really critical. In theory, it's never been easier for our engineering team to have all of the infrastructure around us to build our stuff, but we still use GCP, right? Because of scalability, reliability. So I think there's like a lot of software aspects around those components that are like really, really critical. And I do think that a lot of like the AI tools and AI inject tools, like it's like, what are they actually being used for? If they're like ways to bounce an idea off of something really quick and that required like a whole business intelligence dashboard thing, and now you can kind of like make that on your own. I think that, yeah, that stuff can be replaced. But like, what are things where huge amounts of expertise, huge amounts of strategy, huge amounts of all this sort of stuff that like really specialize? I think like that's actually what is what will kind of win out from this. And I'm going to take a real academic thing. There was a paper published in Science about agentic coding tools from developers a few weeks ago, and what they showed was that like the adoption is huge amongst all these developers, and they're like looking at GitHub commits and stuff like that. And what they learned from the paper was that everyone's using it a lot more. It's only making senior devs more productive.
Yes, that is for
And
sure
so
true.
like it's like junior devs are using it. The commits that have stuff with their clearly agentic stuff, same, but like their output is not different. The output of the senior devs are like 2x of what it was before. And so to me, what I think about this whole space is like, where are the spaces where that specialty is key? Where are the neurosurgeons? Because the neurosurgeons will be 2x. They'll do twice as many. They'll do two brains at the same time. You know what I mean? Like that's like the kind of world where it's going. And then where are the things where it's like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like I need to know this generally. Like I can probably vibe code this on my own and get itself, because I don't need accurate enough or reliable or scalable enough that I can like just this. I can look at this once a month and it's good enough. That I think is the place where like those things will be commoditized very quickly or replaced in-house by their own teams.
Yeah. DB, one thing I'm curious what your take on it is I think that that's correct. I also think that these adoption cycles are going to happen in very different time horizons by industry and by
Totally.
department.
100%.
And so like one thing that
100%.
I've been trying to tell my team without instilling the fear of God in them is like, because we're in cohort 1 and we're like adopting these very fast and like in like this first cohort of companies, our company is going to change the fastest. But then I was in New York last week talking to a bunch of our customers and partners, things like that. They haven't even downloaded Claude. Okay. So not that they won't, but the speed is like very different. And then within a given company, across departments, the speed is very different.
100%.
Like even within my own company, different departments are adopting at very different rates, right? I think that has to be somehow, because like ultimately, like we are participating in capitalism, right? And so it's like, like the pragmatic thing here is like we can all say like, hey, in the long term horizon, like everything is going to be done by Anthropic, but it kind of doesn't matter because in the long term we're all dead anyway, right? So like that's like a not useful thing to say. And so I just wonder, given what you're describing, you marry like this idea of where do you need the depth of expertise with the fact that it's sort of like kinetics versus thermodynamics, right? It's like there's a thermodynamic problem, which is like, hey, this is like the state, but then the rate at which it happens is variable. Like, how do you think about that for where you guys want to go to market?
Yeah, I mean, it's really great insight, and I think that this. So Aaron mentioned that like we're thinking about we are marching more and more up market, and naively we thought about that purely from like a data perspective, and like he says like, oh, they have lots of data. From my perspective, a machine learning engineer, it's because there's more variance in their customer base, and because there's more variance in their customer base and how those customers are, they need to have a variety of outreach strategies and this, that, and the other. They have someone who signed up 10 seconds ago, someone who signed up 10 years ago. Their dynamics are very different versus if a company started 1 month ago, everyone's basically the same. But to your point too, is that like when you go up that scale, not only is there more variance in the data and stuff like that, but then like all the stakes are a lot higher. And to your point, Rashad, like the penetration is going to be a lot slower. Like Shopify brands are very willing to connect data and to share it and to put AI tooling on it and have Claude read half of that stuff. Like Nike's not going to do that, let alone like a bank, let alone, a government entity. Right. And so like I think that as you being in to your point, that cohort 1 of like where we can adopt it, where we can find that sort of leverage. And then it's like, figure out what are the pockets, even in a quote unquote faster moving space, which is like first like a lot of these tech companies and stuff like that, smaller brands, and it's like larger brands, even larger organizations, even in different markets. We eventually want to help serve communication across channels for all sorts of companies. The last to move will probably be the medical system, as like because I've experienced in that space. It's just like super archaic, for lots and lots of excellent reasons. And so their adopting of like intelligence for communication is going to be the last frontier. And so the thing is like, how can we position ourselves with, and it's not just because of like, it's a slow moving thing. They have the highest level of security, trust. The stakes are so high. So you have to build up that case, which isn't just like performance. It's also the reputation. It's also the stability. Like all of that has to proceed. To get a contract with Mount Sinai, you can't just be like, yeah, we did this for this brand. All right, Mount Sinai, like hop on board. It's like, no, they're gonna be like Nike. Then it was Bank of America. Then it was like, and then all of a sudden, like the hospital, like, okay, that's interesting. You're serving all these sorts of things. So that's another way that I think about it too.
Rishabh, from a much less smart perspective, I feel like at the end of the day, like, what is the job to be done that you're building your company around? And if our products are around, sometimes we're building products that should disappear in a month or in a year, right? It's like, I just heard a great podcast with Brad Taylor from Sierra, and I think it was Jack Altman's. And it was like, hey, how do you get a team to be motivated knowing that in 2 years, everything they're building is going to disappear, right? And so we will build stuff to make it easier for our customers, today brands, to drive a ton of value. But what is the durable thing we're building? And at the end of the day, it's like, are we the best in the world at helping you stack rank your audience in a channel? And if we are, good things will happen. And what tools we use and what pace people adopt it, over time, we will continue to win because it is like a very, very hard problem to solve. And it is like the only problem we are solving. And then like we'll churn people, but we should just continue to be ticking up and growing.
I was just going to say, I think it's really interesting if you look at like just how fast Anthropic is shipping. They're solving a new problem all the time. And sort of like the small startups kind of need to too, whether it's because Anthropic just shipped something that does what you do natively, or it's just being adaptive to what the market's actually asking for, what the job to be done is. Right? I remember with my first brand, I hated this. When I was running my first brand, this was like the bane of my existence. It was horrible. Our products could be illegally downloaded. So as soon as we had like 500 to 1,000 customers on any one product, it was super abundant and it was available for free online, and we had to make something else, right? And I think that was kind of good because it forced us to adapt all the time. We had to be doing something new. I have an e-commerce brand now. Our best selling product, we have a little bit of distribution, but we have a hero product like everyone else, has been our best selling product for over a year, right? I don't really want too many people to know about it because it's not particularly special or unique. But, that's a luxury, right? To have a problem that you're solving for your customers that you can continue to solve and not have to update or adapt. But, I wonder if that's sort of the muscle here that needs to be worked, being adaptive and solving the problem that's in front of you, getting the job done, as opposed to building something that's going to last, 3 years, 5 years? Man, you've got to have some incredible foresight, a crystal ball to figure out what that problem is, right?
Yeah, I think Sierra is taking the position that we don't need to know because we have a team of forward deployed people, and they'll just keep asking. So that's like one way to do that, right? But yeah, the market's evolving in a very special way right now. So wait, hold on. There was someone asked, like, Jeremiah, did you ask about the capitalization plans over
Yeah, I
time?
just look at what you guys are aiming towards. I mean, is it
I'll give
a
you,
bootstrap to 10 million a year profit? Is it going public? What is it?
I'll give you the TLDRs, like, and this is dumb, but we want to go public. And it's not because like how cool to be on a magazine or make more money. It's like we actually think we are solving an extraordinarily important problem that is very hard. And so like if you're not aiming that way, it's like we can do a hackneyed B plus version that will like make some cash. But so like we've raised from awesome investors. We got Sugar Capital, Javelin Venture Partner, Super Angel. Like we've got B partners, like a bunch of good investors. We are raising more like we need to. We've actually cut into our burn very meaningfully, and like we're building, we basically invested a bunch to find the machine, and we're not like officially throwing gas on the fire, but like we're pretty close right now. And so now it's like really time to scale channels, right? And then over time, scale into different verticals. So the ambition is there. Like pretty excited about this journey.
guys, I'm dying to ask because this is somewhat consistent across all of the conversations we have. No one is bullish on ecom. And I get it. Like e-commerce suffering, if you think about the numbers that Rashad was talking about, it makes sense. But what are your thoughts on why we're all building here, apart from just it's easy, right? Because like, don't get me wrong, it being easy, it being like somewhere where there are early adopters is definitely a good reason to build here. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just seeing different news to you guys sometimes. I just saw this recently.
Quince is a superstar, unique business that's been at it
Yeah,
for a while.
and then
Well,
Estee Lauder
Jack,
moving over to Shopify with all their brands. Yeah, I wonder why we do it.
I ran a brand for a decade, so I'm empathetic to how painful it is to run a brand. And I'm just like, now an old person in e-commerce. Like, I don't know anything else. Once we move outside of e-commerce, DB and Zach are going to fire me and I'm going to be happy again.
What?
I don't know. I think it's cool. It's like, there is such joy in like actually that like interaction with the consumer. That's candidly it for me. Like the B2B side, I could take or leave. I've missed the like brand side. It is so much fun to run a brand. It's exhausting. It's all the things. Like actually getting in touch with people and building something that somebody wants is like, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think to me, there was the ease of integration, the ease of getting the data, all that kind of stuff. But as a machine learning company, ultimately, Rashab, you're gonna understand because this is some nerdy reinforcement learning talk. It's like what we're doing is we're like really understanding and evaluating tons of strategies, collecting policies for reinforcement learning. What are the policies that brands are doing from a marketing perspective? As Aaron said, like that's like I email once a week, I email 10 times a week. It's like the diversity of strategies in this space for communication is enormous. It's much, there's much more variance there than in any other market. And that allows you to very, not quickly, it's not quick and it's not easy. It allows you to understand like people's behaviors on these channels much faster. And so like, imagine if we did this from a very sticky, I'll do the medical thing. If we're handling hospital communications, it's like how they don't have variance in they've done this thing. And it's because some IT person said that this is the way to do it. Like you'd learn so slowly in that case. I mean, you could build a great business and you could have every hospital in the country using you and stuff like that. But like, you're not going to understand that space, that policy space at all. And that to me is what it is. It's now what's challenging is that you have investors who are like, we don't invest in that space and all this kind of stuff. Like smart tech. But I'm just like, yeah, but like you can understand the state of this system so much faster here, so much faster than in any other possible one. And so I think from our perspective, it's just like to do that, to serve, to make a difference, to help our brands, but like to always know that like that, all of that learning is going to help transfer, right? It's just like, imagine if you're building a big foundation model. It's like, where do you start? Where do you first start sucking up data from? Probably Wikipedia or something like that, right? And you're just like, that's the place that you first start to then go, knowing that eventually you're going to have to like scrape Reddit and scrape all these other places. But it's just like, might as well start at this place that is like centralized human knowledge and then build out from there to get all the hard corners. And like, this is kind of one of those places, at least in like where we play, where there's so much information.
Yeah. And Jack, I want to be very clear about this because I don't want to be mischaracterized. I'm not negative on ecom. Okay. I want to be like super duper clear about this because I love ads. I love, like, there are very few things that like literally run the economy of the world, right? It's like compute, ads, payments. Okay. And commerce has all of those. So, and then everything else is like a derivative of that. Right. And so I want to be very clear. The problem is not e-commerce. The problem is it is hard to build a big B2B company serving e-com merchants, which is not the same thing as being negative on e-com. Those are not the same thing. And
Right.
and it's not for anyone's and the single most important thing I want to emphasize is not anyone's fault. It's not any malicious intent, none of that. It is just like there are structural things the way they are set up that leads to that outcome, which is why investors don't like it, right? Because an investor's job is not to say they like or don't like ecom. An investor's job is to return capital on the capital they give you, which means you've got to accrue an incredible amount of revenue. And so like, I want to be careful about the language because I get in trouble anyway. and like, this is like a great way to get in trouble, but it like, I would never say that I'm negative on ecom. Now, I do think, and I don't want to overshare anything, but I think like, given it is hard to make money selling to merchants, I think that one of the principal questions that it begets the great founder is, what business models are there that don't require that in order to make a lot of money while still serving all of the different types of people who you want to serve, right? And that is actually the job of a founder, is to
Yes.
figure that out, just to be clear. So it is not it is not the ecom merchant's problem that we need to solve that problem, right? Like, that is actually our problem as like founders in the B2B space. So like, yeah, I just want to be clear about the fact that I'm not negative on ecom.
Rishabh, we had a call this morning where the investor was a dream because her immediate reaction was like, "Oh, you guys should just lower your prices, serve more brands, and then cover more surface area." And we're like, "Yeah, the problem is you need to have enough capital to be able to do that versus getting to a self-funding motion." And so it is. I think whether you're not down on ecom, it still goes back to like you can go build an awesome cash flowing business in this ecosystem. The trick is figuring out a venture scalable business. And one's not better or worse, but it's like you gotta be very careful before you go down that path without having thought through the next step and the next step and the next step.
Yeah. And I think I've said this, I know I've said this before. I have no plans of getting out of this space at all. I love it. I'm also not trying to build a venture scale business. So I think it's a different
You
mindset.
seem very happy to
I mean, I love what I do. I love who I work with. But I'm not trying to, if I was trying to go build $1 billion company, I'd be thinking of it very differently.
How do you guys see these public companies that are acquiring a bunch of, I think we just saw another one, Alia, get snatched up for 30 to 60 million or something.
awesome.
How do you guys, like, what's the strat here? Why are these acquisitions happening?
My sense from Alia is amazing team, like truly building in public. So you think about like the 15-year-old like lines not dots post from Mark Suster about investing is like you could literally see you could see the line of Alia. So great team building a product that people like. You talk to any customer or any agency who worked with them and they're like, oh yeah, what I love about these guys is they just go the extra mile. So like I think that's as much about like getting an amazing group would be my guess. Is like the product is good. I'm sure the cash flow, I'm sure you could make a good business case for why Alia. What we're hearing more are just acqui-hires left and right. Like we've had companies approach us and like not with anything super firm, but like really, really good businesses. And our answer is like, look, we're not looking for a job. We're not looking to be acqui-hired. We're going to keep building and we'll do that. I think it's like I think it's a buyer's market if you want to go get like tools and talent, but it's a buyer's market because everybody's afraid that even an Alia could get disrupted immediately by what if somebody put a wrapper on Club, right? Like, isn't it just easy to do that? And so I think the like hard part for an entrepreneur, for like not the entrepreneur, but like for the team or for the business is to go build something that is actually durable, that is not a wrapper on, that is not easily replaceable, right? And like that has some level of network effects or some level of differentiated, you have to build something that's more durable.
I think, and this is like, I honestly view it as my primary job at the company is helping, besides leading with Aaron, is like helping steer a vision, and then knowing like my expertise in machine learning, stuff like that, of like knowing very quickly what can become commoditized and what can't. Because I think the assumption right now is that everything can be commoditized, and that's not true. But a large part of it is, and we don't know which parts of it are. And I think that's the big thing that makes it all this big, scary thing. Like, and I think that what you have to do as a founder is like really understand, given the space where it is. And like, that's honestly what I think a lot. Like I've actively said, no, we're not building these features, even though I know that we would have near universal adoption amongst our customer base, because I am convinced that they'll be fully commoditized within 3 to 6 months. Either the brands build it, Klaviyo releases it, like whatever, and they're really shiny, and maybe they do deliver some value, but I'm just like, we're not going to spend all of our engineering effort on these like commoditized things when like our brands suffer big problems that need big help on, that are really, really, really hard to do, that requires ML expertise and domain expertise. And I'm just like, yeah, this sucks. They're yelling at us. They're churning, but like we're slowly cracking, building the foundations over here, even though like, yeah, people are signing up for this and they're like doing that, but I'm like, it's all going to happen. There's going to be $500 a month options for those feature sets. Like we can't build over there.
And there's a great business for somebody to go out there and build those commoditized things, make some money,
100%.
and do
Yeah.
well.
And then just rinse and repeat. Yeah. Awesome, guys. All right. I got to run, actually. This was amazing. Thank you guys for joining.
Great. Thank you
This is
guys.
super fun.
Yeah.
Great.